Alone and surrounded. Captain Hen clutched the shattered fragments of her ancestral spear as 20 Gorzak warriors closed in to kill her. The broken weapon sparked weakly in her blue-scaled hands before going out forever. No escape, no hope. Only death awaited her. Blood stained the crystalline plains of Belera Prime, once beautiful, now a graveyard. 27 elite Korbani warriors. Her warriors lay scattered across the battlefield. She was the last one standing, the final obstacle between the Gorzak horde and the extinction of her people. The Gorzak horde had been hunting them for 3 days. These monsters were twice as tall as any Korbani, with 6 powerful arms and claws capable of slicing through combat armor like paper. Their gray hide was as thick as metal plates, and their small red eyes burned with an endless hunger for war and death. Anna heard them before she saw them. Heavy footsteps crunched on the crystal floor. Deep voices growled in their harsh language. She counted at least 20. Maybe more. Her tactical training told her to flee, seek cover, wait for a rescue that would never come. But Han was a captain of the elite guard. She wouldn't run from those beasts. She rose from behind the crystalline rock, wielding the broken spear like a club. Gortak warriors formed a wide circle around her. Their leader, a massive creature with scars on his arms, stepped forward. He carried a warhammer large enough to crush a small vehicle. "Little Blue Warrior," the leader said in a broken galactic standard. His voice sounded like stone being ground. "You fight well. Your soldiers died with honor, but now you will die too." Han raised her broken weapon. "I am Captain Han of the elite Korbani Guard. If you want me, come and take me." The Gortak laughed. It was a terrible sound, like metal scraping against rock. They began to advance, slowly closing the circle, relishing their fear. But Han felt fear, only rage at what those monsters had done to his people, his soldiers, his world. The leader raised his enormous hammer above his head. Han prepared to dodge, knowing he could only delay the inevitable. He would make them earn their deaths. He would make them remember his name. It was then that the sky burst into flames. Something streaked through the red atmosphere above them, leaving a trail of fire and smoke. It was small, much smaller than a Gortak transport or a Korbani fighter. The object roared overhead and slammed into the ground between Han and the Gortak leader. With tremendous force, the impact threw everyone backward. Shards of glass flew through the air like deadly rain. Anna rolled behind her rock formation, shielding her head as debris rained down around her. The Gortak warriors roared in confusion and fury as the dust settled. Han peered out from behind the rock. A strange ship lay in the center of a smoking crater. It was unlike anything she had ever seen before. The hull was dark metal, with strange symbols painted on its sides. Steam rose from its surface, and small fires flickered among the wreckage. A section of the ship suddenly exploded outward. From the smoke and flames emerged a figure. A figure. Anna stared at it in amazement. The being was smaller than a Korbani or a Gorzak, but it walked with a confident stride. It wore dark armor that seemed to move with its body like a second skin. The helmet covered its face, but Han caught a glimpse of 2 eyes behind the transparent visor. Dark brown eyes. Attentive and completely calm, the stranger surveyed the scene. It saw the dead Korbani soldiers, the broken weapons, the circle of Gorzak warriors. Finally, its gaze fell on Hannah, assessing her condition and her broken spear. Then it turned to the Gorzak leader. The creature raised a hand and removed its helmet. Anna gasped. The face beneath was unlike anything she had ever seen. The skin was pale, almost pink, without scales or armor plates. Straight black hair covered the top of its head. Its features were delicate compared to Korbani's or Gortak's, but intelligence and determination shone in its eyes. "Do you mind if I join the fight?" the stranger asked in clear galactic standard. Its voice was calm, almost casual, as if it were borrowing a tool rather than facing 20 mortal warriors. The Gortak's leader recovered from his surprise and laughed again. Another little warrior comes to die. What are you, little creature? I'm human, the stranger replied, drawing a weapon from his back. My name is Tam-Man. The weapon was unlike anything Han had ever seen. It was sleek and dark, clearly advanced technology, but distinct from both Korbani energy weapons and Gortak plasma cannons. Tam-Man held it casually, his finger resting near what was evidently the trigger. Human, the Gortak leader spat. I've never heard of such a species. You'll die like all the others. Perhaps, Tam-Man said with a faint smile, but probably not. The first Gortak warrior charged at him from the left, all 6 arms outstretched, claws spread. Tam-Man moved in a way that seemed impossible. He ducked, twisted sideways, and reared up behind the attacking warrior. His weapon fired once with a sharp click, and the Gortak fell. 2 more attacked from different directions. Tam-Man rolled forward, sprang to his feet, and somehow ended up behind them both. 2 more shots. 2. Dead Gorzak. Anna watched in amazement. She had fought Gortak before. They were swift despite their size, deadly with their claws, and nearly impossible to wound with ordinary weapons. But this human made it look easy. He moved like water, flowing between their attacks, always ending up in the perfect position to counterattack. The remaining Gortags stopped laughing. They began to circle him more cautiously, treating Tam-Man as a real threat rather than easy prey. But the human didn't seem worried. If anything, he looked more relaxed as the odds worsened. Captain called to Han to take her eyes off the enemy. You can still fight. Anna looked at her broken spear. My weapon is destroyed, so stay behind me and watch for openings. I'm going to show you why it's best not to mess with humans. Tam-Man raised his weapon and smiled again. It wasn't a friendly smile, it was the smile of a predator who had just found the perfect prey, the real battle. It was about to begin. The remaining 17 Gorts spread out in a wider circle. They had seen 3 of their pack die in a matter of seconds, and now they treated the small human with the respect due to a dangerous predator. Han watched from behind his crystal formation as Tam-Man studied his enemies. The human moved his weapon slightly, tracking different targets, but his body remained relaxed. He had never seen anyone face such odds with such serene certainty. The Gorzak leader growled orders in his harsh tongue. 4 warriors began to approach from different angles while the others held their positions. It was a standard House Gortak formation designed to overwhelm prey through coordinated attacks. Tam-Man nodded as if approving of their tactics. Not bad, he said quietly. But they're overthinking it. Like hunters. The warrior lunged forward, claws outstretched. Instead of dodging backward, Tam-Man stepped into the attack, grabbed the creature's lead arm, and used his own momentum to spin it around. The Gorzak slammed into the wreckage of the human's ship with bone-crushing force. The second attacker came from behind, but Tam-Man was already moving. He rolled beneath the air-sweeping claws and reared up beside its leg. His weapon fired point-blank at the Gorzak's knee. The joint exploded in a spray of dark blood, and the warrior collapsed, screaming. Anna stared in shock. The human wasn't just fighting the Gorzaks, he was using their own attacks against them, turning their strength into weakness. It was completely unlike any fighting style she had ever seen. The 3rd and 4th attackers reached him simultaneously. Tam-Man dropped his weapon and pulled something small from his belt. He tossed it between the 2 Gorzaks and dodged to the side. The small object exploded in a cloud of dense gray smoke billowed out. The cloud covered half the battlefield. The Gortak roared in confusion, slashing their claws at shadows. Tam-Man moved through the cloud like a ghost, appearing just in time to strike before vanishing again. His weapon crackled with that dry, sharp sound over and over. When the smoke cleared, 4 Gortak lay dead or dying. Impossible. Han whispered. She had seen a human fight 13 Gortak warriors and win, but even more remarkably, she had made it look easy. Tan Man moved as if he knew exactly what each enemy would do before they did it. The Gortak leader was no longer laughing. His small red eyes burned with rage and something else. Something that almost looked like fear. "What kind of warrior are you?" he demanded. Tan Man picked up his weapon and checked something on its side. "The kind who studies his enemies before fighting," he replied. "You Gortak are strong, fast, and tough, but also they are predictable. They always attack from the same angles, they always use the same formations. They believe that strength is everything. Might is everything." The leader roared. Not calmly, Tan Man said. "Intelligence is everything, adaptation is everything. They've been hunting weak prey for so long they've forgotten how to fight real foes." 3 more Gorzak charged at once, trying to overwhelm the human with sheer numbers. Tan Man did something that took Han's breath away. Instead of fleeing or dodging, he charged straight at them. At the last second, he slid to his knees beneath their attacks. As he passed between their legs, his weapon fired upward 3 times in rapid succession. The 3 warriors fell before they could even turn. The human rolled to his feet and brushed the dust off his armor. 7 to go, he announced. As if keeping score in a game, the remaining Gorak fell back. Now these creatures that had terrorized entire star systems were retreating before a single small human. Anna could hardly believe her eyes. "You can't defeat us all," the leader growled, but his voice trembled with insecurity. "Do you want to? Want to bet?" Tan Man asked. He reached into a pouch on his belt and pulled out another small device. "This is a fragmentation grenade, one of my people's simplest inventions. When it explodes, it hurls tiny pieces of metal in all directions at high speed. Your tough hide won't do you much good." He held the device casually, his thumb near a small button. "Now you have 2 choices. You can keep fighting and see how many pieces I can cut you into. Or you can run and tell your friends that humans have reached this part of the galaxy." The Gortak leader looked at his remaining warriors. They were all backing away from the human, their confidence completely shattered. These creatures who lived for battle were afraid to fight. "This isn't over, human," the leader finally said. "The Horde will remember you. We will return with thousands of warriors." "I hope so." Tan Man replied with that predatory grin. "It will save us the trouble of hunting you down." The Gortak leader turned and ran. His remaining warriors followed him, their heavy footsteps echoing across the crystal plains as they disappeared into the distance. Taman watched them go, then turned to check on Han. "Are you hurt?" he asked, his voice now soft. Once the fight was over, Han slowly rose to her feet. Her legs trembled, not from injuries, but from the shock of what she had just witnessed. "No, I'm not hurt, but I don't understand how you did that. You fought 20 warriors alone." "Gortak, actually, I only fought 17, Taman corrected her with a faint smile. "The first 3 were just warm-ups." He walked over to his crashed ship and began pulling objects from the wreckage. "To answer your question, it's all about tactics. Your people, the Korbani, fight with honor, right? Head-on engagements, formal challenges, clean kills." "Of course," Han said. "There is no honor in deceit or trickery, and the Gortak fight with brute force, overwhelming superiority, direct attacks, and intimidation through size and numbers. Yes, they are monsters, but they are straightforward monsters." Tan Man nodded. "Both approaches work against enemies who fight the same way, but we humans learned long ago that the best way to win a fight is to refuse to fight it on the enemy's terms. We use the environment, we use psychology, we use their expectations against them." He pulled a small device from the wreckage and began working on it. "My ship's communications are still working. I'm sending a distress signal to my crew, but I must warn you about something, Captain." Tan Man looked up from his work with a grave expression. "Those Gortak I just fought weren't the main force, they were scouts. The real army is on its way, and when it arrives, there will be many more than 20 of them. Anna felt a chill despite the heat of the red sun. How many more? According to my ship sensors, the crystal plains suddenly felt very empty and very dangerous. Tman worked on the communication device while Han watched the horizon. The plain stretched endlessly in all directions, beautiful and deadly under the red sun. Somewhere out there, 10,000 Gortak warriors were marching toward them. Tell me about your mission here, Tman said as he connected wires inside the small device. Why were you and your soldiers on this planet? Anna sat on a piece of broken glass. Her whole body ached after 3 days of constant fighting. This was supposed to be our last stand. The Gorzhak horde has already destroyed our homeworld. Our people are scattered across 3 colony planets, trying to evacuate civilians before the horde reaches them. How many civilians? Millions, maybe tens of millions. And that includes all 3 colonies. Han's voice trailed off. My unit was supposed to delay the horde here to buy time and allow the evacuation fleets to escape. We knew it was a death mission. Tman stopped working and looked at her. Your leaders sent them here to die. We volunteered. All of us. It was the only way to save our people. The human studied her face for a long moment. Then he went back to his task. Well, I have good news and bad news. What's the good news? I managed to contact my command. Help is on the way. Anna felt a spark of hope. How many ships? How many warriors? That's the bad news. The nearest human fleet is 3 days away. Even if they push their engines to the limit, they won't arrive in time. Hope died as quickly as it had arrived. Then we're on our own. Not exactly. Tman raised the communicator, which emitted a soft beep. I have 2 friends who were conducting operations in nearby systems. They're closer than the fleet. The closer. About 6 hours. Anna did a quick mental calculation. The main Gortak force would arrive much sooner, 2 more humans. So, 3 in total against 10,000. Gortak. That's right. Anna stared at him. You can't be serious. 3 beings can't fight an army. Tman smiled again, that predatory grin. You'd be surprised what 3 humans can do when they really don't want to lose. He stood up and walked to another part of his wrecked ship. But first, I have to teach you a few things. If we're going to survive, you have to learn to fight like a human. I know how to fight. I'm captain of the elite guard. You know how to fight like a Korban. Honor, skill, direct confrontation. That's not going to work here. Tman pulled a strange tool from the wreckage. We humans learned long ago that when you're outnumbered, you don't fight fair, you fight with your head. For the next 2 hours, Tman began to teach him things that shocked and horrified her. How to turn everyday objects into deadly weapons. How to use the enemy's psychology against them. How to make a small force seem much larger through trickery and distraction. This isn't war, Han protested as Tman showed her how to make explosives from parts of the ship. This is cheating. Dead is dead, Tman replied calmly. The Gortak don't care about honor when they're killing your civilians. Why would you care when you're trying to stop them? She was right, but Han still felt it was wrong. Everything she'd been taught about the proper warfare told her that such human tactics were dishonorable, but she remembered her dead soldiers, her destroyed homeworld, the millions of civilians who depended on them. Teach me more, she said softly. Taman nodded approvingly. The first rule of human warfare is to use the environment. This planet is covered in crystal formations. With the right knowledge, we can weaponize those crystals. He led her to a large formation and showed her stress points in the structure. Strike here hard enough and the whole thing will collapse. Strike here and it will explode into razor-sharp fragments. Strike there and the vibrations will travel through the ground and shatter other nearby crystals. Anna began to see the battlefield differently. What had once seemed like simple terrain now appeared to her as a complex machine waiting to be activated. You want to weaponize the entire planet. Now you're thinking like a human. A new sound reached their ears. The high-pitched whine of an atmospheric inlet. Two small objects streaked across the sky. Much smaller than Tam Man's crashed ship, they landed softly about a kilometer away using some kind of advanced parachute system. Just in time, Tam Man said with satisfaction. Two figures approached across the crystal plains. Like Tam Man, they wore tight-fitting armor and carried advanced weapons. As they drew closer, Han could see their faces through visors. One was a woman with short black hair and piercing eyes. The other was a man with a serene expression that reminded him of Tam Man. His Een. Kid, Tam Man called as they drew near. I'm glad you were able to come to the party. The Sujin woman looked at the scattered Gortak bodies. Looks like you started without us, just a warm-up, Tam Man replied. The real fight hasn't started yet. Kid, the man was studying the horizon with some kind of optical device. I count approximately 8,000 heat signatures moving this way. They'll be over in about 4 hours. 8,000, Han asked. I thought you said 10,000. The other 2,000 are probably flanking units, Suin said, pulling gear from her backpack. Standard Gortak tactics. They'll try to surround us before the main attack. Han, 3 humans. They seemed completely calm, as if facing impossible odds was routine. How could they be so sure? Even if they fought like demons, 3 humans couldn't defeat 8,000 Gortak. Mino grinned. It was the same predatory grin she'd seen on Tamman's face. Who said anything about fighting 8,000 Gortak? We're not going to fight them, Suin added, assembling what looked like a highly advanced explosive device. We're going to hunt them. Tam Man walked over to Han and placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. Captain, you've been thinking about this the wrong way. You see 8,000 enemies. We see 8,000 targets. There's a big difference. Suin finished with her device and looked up. Besides, we won't be fighting them all at once. The Gortak are pack hunters. They split into smaller groups when they attack. We just have to make sure they can't coordinate those groups. And how do we do that? Han asked. Mino pulled a long, sleek weapon from his back. It looked like some kind of advanced rifle with multiple sights and attachments. The Gortak command structure relies on pack leaders. Kill the leaders and the packs become confused and disorganized. Kill enough leaders and the whole army falls apart. They're going to assassinate their commanders. Among other things, Tam Man said, we're going to turn this battlefield into a maze, cut off their communications, destroy their supply lines, and make them so paranoid and confused that they'll be fighting shadows. Instead of us, his Een stood up and dusted off his armor. The goal isn't to kill 8,000 Gortak. The goal is to make 8,000 Gortak wish they'd never heard of humans. As night fell on the crystal plains, the 4 warriors gathered around a small heat source that Tam Man had improvised from ship components. The red sun had disappeared below the horizon, leaving crystalline formations to twinkle under unknown stars. In the distance, the ground still trembled with the advance of the Gortak army, but for now they had a moment to breathe. Han studied the 3 humans with newfound curiosity. They had saved her life, offered to help save her people, and now they were proposing a strategy that violated everything she understood about war. Your species, she finally said, breaking the silence. Humans, I've never heard of you until today. Where do you come from? Tam Man smiled as he adjusted something on his weapon. From a planet called Earth. It's very far from here. Many sectors away. We're relatively new to this part of the galaxy, and you're explorers, Han asked. The 3 humans exchanged amused glances. Not exactly, Suin replied. We're what you might call specialists. The human fleet sends us ahead into new territories to assess potential threats. 3 of us, alone. Small teams work best, Mino explained. In a calm but confident voice. It's easier to move undetected, easier to adapt, easier to operate behind enemy lines. Anna nodded slowly, trying to understand. In my world, we send entire battalions as advance forces, hundreds of warriors with heavy support, which makes them easy to spot, Tamman said, impossible to hide. And if they're discovered, they need even more support. A perfect target, her Jean added, but their way of waging war. Anna hesitated. It seems dishonorable, Tamman suggested with a smile. Yes. Tamman laid his weapon aside and looked directly at her. Tell me about Korbani warfare, Captain. How you train your warriors. Anna straightened, her pride evident. From childhood, we learn the sacred forms of combat. Every movement perfected through thousands of repetitions. Every weapon mastered through years of study. We learn to face our enemies head-on, to announce our presence, to allow them time to prepare. Honor in battle is everything. And how has that served you against the Gortak? She asked. Mino spoke softly. The question stung. Anna looked away. No, very well. Why do you think that is? Suin pressed gently. Because they have no honor, Han replied bitterly. They use overwhelming force. They don't fight fair. Exactly, Tamman said. They don't play by your rules. Why should you play by yours? Anna had no answer. She had asked herself the same question ever since she saw Tamman defeat 20 Gortak warriors using tactics no Korbani would consider acceptable. Let me tell you the story of Earth, Tamman continued. For thousands of years, humans fought amongst ourselves. Tribe against tribe, nation against nation. We tried honorable warfare, organized battles, formal declarations, rules of engagement, and we almost went extinct, Suin interjected. Because every time one side fought with honor, the other found a way to circumvent that honor. The most successful strategies were almost never the most honorable. Over time, Mino added, we learned that the purpose of war is not to demonstrate skill or honor, but to achieve objectives with minimal losses. Everything else is secondary. Tamman nodded. Our history is full of small forces defeating larger ones, refusing to fight on the enemy's terms, using the environment, striking where the enemy is weakest instead of strongest, forcing them to fight blindly. Anna looked thoughtful. We have accounts of such things in our history, ancient times when the Korbani fought more pragmatically. But those methods were abandoned out of dishonor, and that choice can cost your species its existence, Mino said bluntly. The words hung between them. Anna couldn't deny the truth. Her world was lost. Her people scattered, everything. Because the Gortak didn't care about honor. Korbani, tell me about yourselves, she said finally, changing the subject. How did the three of you get here, so far from home? Suin smiled. I was an engineer on Earth. I specialized in structural analysis, understanding how buildings and materials behave under tension. When the war with the Tyrell Collective began, I was recruited to develop more effective demolition techniques. The Tyrell Collective? Han asked. Another space-capable species, Tamman explained. Our first real interstellar conflict. They thought humans would be easy to conquer. They were sorely mistaken. I was originally a hunter, Mio said quietly, from a cold, mountainous region of Earth. Tracking prey in difficult terrain, understanding animal behavior, learning patience. Those skills translated surprisingly well to asymmetric warfare. And you? Han Tamman asked. Military Academy. And then Special Operations. I was trained to work in small teams behind enemy lines to accomplish objectives that conventional forces couldn't. He paused, but the most important part of my training wasn't tactical or technical, it was psychological. Understanding how different species think, how they fight, what breaks them. Han nodded slowly. And the Gorthak, what have you learned from them? Tamman's expression turned serious. They are apex predators of a high-altitude world. Gravity. Their entire culture is built